Alright everyone, how's everyone going tonight? Is there anything in my teeth? No? Just gonna sip some of my daiquiri. Has a little Hennessy in it. Hey Solar Power 40. How's it going? Wanted to stop in, say hello, see how you guys are hanging in there. Mercury just went into Scorpio. What else is going on? I think the moon is in Pisces, or I believe it's in Aquarius going into Pisces. Sun in Libra. Venus is in Leo, or I think Virgo actually. So all that shit going on. Walking in my purpose, hello. Offbeat, Elegance, hello. Dark, Q66N69, hello. Talia Guevara, hello. So yeah, just watching television, enjoying my night, enjoying my Sunday. Got done with my spiritual baths. I took a bath today with Rompe Saragüey, Quita Maldición, Bay Leaf, Abre Camino. More so kind of a road opening cleanse, just because I felt like today, like when I got to the gym, like I felt like kind of stagnant, kind of sluggish. And, you know, there's so much kind of fogginess in the atmosphere. So I wanted to, you know, get something that was going to unblock my roads, very much kind of clear my path, so to speak. I set up fresh offerings. As you all saw today on my post, I went to the river, Cane River this morning, well, this afternoon, and set up some offerings. Did the damn thing, as well as change the offerings on my altar. Hello, Sam Herr. Let's see what you guys want to talk about this evening. Hello, Hood Conjurer. Hello. The Soul Sage. Hello. See what you guys want to talk about this evening. Hopefully I don't choke on my drink. And if you don't catch this live, it will be on the YouTube channel, as I do with all, or at least lately, as I do with all my YouTubes. I mean my IG lives. I've been posting them on my my YouTube channel. So lately I've been getting into this book. I started getting into this book, and it has a really long introduction because it's a reprint from the 1991 edition. The 1991 edition didn't have the photos, and it didn't have this Mama Lola's photo on the front because she wanted to keep anonymity. But the new revised version, this one is from 2001, and she died this year. She died this past year. So this is the new revised version, and it has all like kind of the new information updated as of 2001, so to speak. But yeah, she just died this past year. I don't think it was due to COVID. I think it was more so kind of due to old age. But rest in peace, Mama Lola, the Haitian voodoo priestess of Brooklyn. So yeah, I've been getting into that book. That's the book that I'm more so kind of peeling through at the current time. You went to the river too as well. Cida La Naturalista. Hello. Should we still be doing the Solomon Love thing? Yeah, if you want to. If you are able to stay consistent with it 3 days straight at the same time. Let's talk about Mercury and Scorpio. You know, Mercury and Scorpio is all about secrets. It's all about kind of, you know, my great-grandmother, she had this saying to where it's like, I can look through muddy water and see dry land. And that's very much kind of a Mercury and Scorpio kind of attribute, to where you're able to see through the fog and still see clarity, still have clarity. Thank you so much. All about my view on solar returns. I like solar returns. I like solar return charts. I think it's very indicative of the year ahead. It's one of those charts, you know, as I'm learning more about astrology, I feel like there's so many different variants that very much kind of, in a weird way, tell the same story, but very much kind of, some are more detailed than the other, some are more exact than the other, some kind of like, you know, throw something off in the dark, and some not so much. But solar returns definitely give you a bird's eye view of the upcoming year. I like them as well. And you know, it's interesting, if I always talk about this with Venus and Vesta, the astrologer Venus Invest, to follow her if you don't on Instagram. She talks about the people that are in your life the week of your birthday will have a pivotal role in regards to your birth for your year in the upcoming year. So it's kind of like, for example, let's say that, you know, all the people at your birthday party, all the people you see that week of your birthday, and the people you don't see, but more importantly, the people you do see, they definitely play a major role in the play that is your life for the upcoming year. And that falls in line with solar returned. Hey Kenia, how are you? I love you as well, Bria Sade. Hello, Gabrielle Sellers, how are you? Thank you so much, Omoye Justine. Hello, Travis. Anybody praying Songs of Solomon chapter 8 and got a new boo? Tired of getting a reading, said I had to wait till 2021. Oh, tried to get a reading. Yeah, you know, 2021 isn't too far off. These readings are jamming by, to be quite honest. You know, all these readings are coming through. What else is going on? What do you guys want to talk about this evening? Thank you so much, Kenia. What do you guys want to talk about this evening? Can you tell I'm starting to get a little shape in my face? You know, a month or two ago when I wasn't going to the gym, not that I'm acting like, oh, I'm losing so much weight, but still, like, at least I'm starting to notice that I'm not looking as wide in the face as I used to when I wasn't working out and whatnot. I would like to work with Yemaya. It will be my first time. I have my offerings. Do you have any tips? It depends on, you know, if you have a spiritual godparent that can definitely assist you in working with Yemaya. You know, I wouldn't suggest working with her all willy-nilly if you don't know that that's who has your head, or, you know, that whole thing. I made that mistake. And, you know, luckily I walked away unscathed. I was doing all kind of crazy stuff that looking back in hindsight, I know better now, but I was doing all kind of crazy stuff with Elekes and Yemaya and Shango and stuff like that, but I didn't know better at the time. But like, no, now that I know better, I want people to do better, at least if they are going to listen to me, in my opinion. So with that being said, you know, find community, find mentorship, find someone that can wash your head, or definitely, well, first initiate you, or at least, you know, do divination on what path you need to be going on. And if in fact, because it might not even be Yemaya, it might be, you know, someone else. It might be Osha or Alegua or whoever. Because, you know, and it's funny because most of the people that get in influence, or more so kind of turned into this path, usually the introductory spirits are Alegua or Oshun. It's always Oshun, or Yemaya or Shango. Those are always kind of like the first ones at the door, the bouncers of the club, so to speak. But it's super important that you find mentorship, you find community wherever it is that you live in. Community isn't always easy, you know. In this day and age, even though it's not the best, but it's more so kind of the first kind of way to kind of cut through the fog, is more so kind of, you know, if you can find a group on Facebook, and then through the Facebook groups, you can find community, people in your town, whether you live in Cincinnati, Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Jacksonville, Florida, Duval, no matter where it is that you live, you can find people that know something about something, and then you can start to be able to create or build community up from there. And that way you can find the right path, you can find the right direction, as opposed to just jumping into anything and offending spirits, you know, setting yourself up for shit you don't know what you're doing. Let's see. Best way to use bank dirt. I think I talk about that on my website, but you can always keep it on your altar. You can put it on your fixed candles if you like. You can add it to mojo bags, bank dirt. You can also, you know, you can add it to a floor wash to sweep your front door if you have a business. If you have a even though it's hard to have, a brick and mortar business in this day and age with COVID. But, if you have a business, you can definitely sweep the front of your doors and plant it in plots. You can also, if you have money growing plants like basil or a bay leaf plant, money manifesting plants like basil or bay leaf or rosemary, you can add it to the soil of that. And that will definitely add to higher vibrational financial attraction, so to speak. What's a good transit coming up to do prosperity work? Good question. It's so hard with this upcoming fall to find good electional stuff going on. If you follow chrisbrennan.com or if you watch the astrology podcast on YouTube, you'll see that he does his yearly electional charts, and I'll tell you, when are the best electional times for the upcoming year. Again, that's chrisbrennan.com. Actually, I'll put it in the ChrisBrennan.com. Go to that website, and ChrisBrennan.com. He's top-notch astrologer. He's the cat's meow on Twitter. Everyone sits down anytime he says anything, so good for him. But he talks about electional charts for the upcoming year, and it's it's a really challenging time with this upcoming fall, with this Mars retrograde, and it's squaring Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto. And what else is crazy? Where else are we crazy? I think things don't kind of clear up till the end of December, but I would say if you are looking to do anything lunar, like with these moon manifestations, depending on what your North Node is, and it's very controversial. A lot of traditionalists, especially people that are just now getting into Vedic and Indian astrology, are very much kind of tight-lipped, or more so uptight, rather, about the North Node. But I'm always someone who will tell you, if you do lunar manifestations on moons that coincide, or what's the word I'm looking for? If you do lunar manifestations on moons that are affiliated with your North Node positively, whether it's trine, conjunct, or sextile, you will notice a difference. For example, I have North Node in Taurus, and I always talk about how, Witch Dr. Alex wouldn't exist had it wouldn't been for the supermoon in 2016, the supermoon in Taurus, November of 2016, after the election, right after the election. That's when, this account started. That's when this whole, hullabaloo started for me. And even in 2017, it was 2017, it was the new moon in Taurus, was when I was able to move in after, living in cars, living in roommates, having all this shit. I was able to get my own apartment in a really nice neighborhood in Koreatown. And then in 2018 through 2019, I was living in a really nice place in Koreatown. And that was after all the stuff that I did on the new moon in Taurus. So with that being said, either conjunct. So let's say, for example, that you have North Node in Libra. Then you would do, and that's this upcoming North Node. This upcoming new moon. This upcoming new moon. So let's say you have North Node in Libra. So that means that with this new moon, you would definitely do a manifestation, even though there's gnarly squares. There's Mars opposition. There's so many tests and challenges. But if you absolutely must, the thing about it, squares aren't always necessarily bad. And I'll get to that in a second, why squares aren't always necessarily bad. But anyway, if you have North Node in Libra, and the new moon in Libra is coming up in the next couple of weeks, I believe in 2 weeks or whatever, then you would do manifestation. And between now and then the full moon in Libra in March, late March, right? Full moon in Libra, March 2021, this 6-month cycle that you would see, you would definitely notice the difference. I only notice the differences when I do moon manifestations on lunar transits that are affiliated with my North Node. So I use that example with Libra. I have North Node in Taurus, so I would only do moon manifestations that would be noticeable on water moons, which is Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer, as well as earth moons, which is Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. The fire ones, the air ones aren't necessarily that noticeable for me in terms of the lunar transits. But, you know, if you are a fire moon, if you are a air moon, then you would definitely work with those more specifically. So the example that I was getting to in a second, this guy on Twitter, Astro Twitter, was talking about how music artists that have Venus aspects to Jupiter definitely give you this luxurious feeling that makes you feel luxurious, and ultimately their music definitely inspires you. So we were talking about artists, and we were talking about Ari Lennox and other artists like that. I had looked up Rick Ross because, you know, that's one of my, you know, my mains. And he actually has Venus square Jupiter. So he has, I believe, Jupiter in, let's say he has Jupiter in Aries, but he has Venus, he has a bunch of Capricorn placements. So he has Venus in Capricorn, but Jupiter in Aries, but that's a Venus square. That's a Venus is square to Aries. So with that being said, it's not the most luxurious. However, oh, look at, he's probably not even watching. But anyway, Michael Silas, hello. Oh, there he is. But anyway, that's one of my friends. But anyway, so with Venus and Venus square Jupiter, with that being said, it's, you know, squares are always tests and challenges. They're always gnarly transits. For example, it's like the sun is square Mars retrograde. And if you can't tell, there's all of this drama going on, even though 2020 has been full of motherfucking drama. But it's like right now, it's like a rock in a hard place with a lot of stuff. People feel like they want to get things done and do certain things, and it's like they're fighting against the fog ultimately. So you have North Node in Capricorn. So you would do lunar manifestations that would be noticeable on Scorpio new moons and full moons, Pisces new moons and full moons, Cancer new moons and full moons, Virgo new moons and full moons, and Taurus new moons and full moons, as well as Capricorn new moons. So trine and sextile will be your lunar manifestation. Koreatown is in LA. North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. So that's the same with me. So you would do noticeable moon manifestations on the earth moons and the water moons. North Node is found in your birth chart. It's the horseshoe. It's the upside down horseshoe. Yeah, I'm watching Lady Gaga. I'm in, like, every time I drink, I'm always in the mood to watch, like, music documentaries, like, music performances, because, you know, I'm able to do a lot of meditative channeling when I watch and when I drink. When I drink and I watch music performances. That's why I'm able to, you know, be so top-notch with my inspirational content. Why, you know, I'm up here, I'm number one. No, but seriously, I do channel a lot of energy from artists, even though not when I'm on live, but when I get off the phone with you guys, that's when I'll do my meditations, and I'll suck some of Lady Gaga's energy through meditation. And, you know, that's another thing, especially when you have lunar planets in the earth or the water signs, you're able to, you know, work really well. I mean, any lunar sign is able to work well with sex transmutation, but, you know, I feel like, in my personal opinion, the earth and the moon ones are able to work or use sex transmutation to their benefit because of all that channeling and because of all that touch and all that taste and all that flavor, so to speak. You have North Node in Virgo, so then you would work with the earth and the water moons. When you want to do lunar, I'm still doing readings even though I'm completely booked up. Even though you see me on live, I can only do X amount of readings a day. That's why I don't, everyone thinks that, I like doing readings, but I don't love doing readings. And, people think that I'm just supposed to be sitting in front of a crystal ball all day. Like, it gets taxing and mentally taxing. And that's why I have to take so many spiritual baths. That's why I have to light so many candles. That's why I have to do all these things throughout the day, make all these offerings in order to kind of clear myself off of all the muck that I deal with readings. I don't hate doing readings. Like I said, I like doing readings, but I don't love doing readings. But I certainly don't love doing readings all day, but I am still doing readings. But getting back to, you have North Node in Leo, so then you would work with the air moons, the air new moons and full moons, and the fire new moons and full moons. Enhance our divination abilities and stuff for us wanting to pursue it professionally and stuff. It's challenging, to be honest. I like to work with Psalm 78 before readings, especially when you're first getting into working with cards or tea leaves or whatever it is that you want to work with in terms of divination. If you do Psalm 78 right before every single reading, and you say the whole scripture before, it definitely opens up your vibrations. It opens up your roads in regards to connecting, as well as sleeping with lavender under the mattress or under your pillow, lighting lavender incense. Lavender is highly intuitive. Drinking a lot of matcha tea, well, not a lot of matcha tea because you'll never sleep, but drinking matcha tea before reading will definitely open up your intuition and your vibrations. And it's interesting because, not to sound racist or anything like that, but one thing I feel like is clear is, with Asia and parts of Asia, the parts of Asia that drink matcha tea, they've always managed to stay out of the fray of the rest of the rest of the Western world, because they have so many practices that are very much in alignment, whether it be feng shui, drinking matcha tea, or traditional Chinese medicine, Japanese medicine, whatever the case may be. They're just very much kind of all about being zen and in alignment, whereas us in the Western world, we're very much all over the place. And I feel like with that, they're very much in tune with their intuition to where they're able to kind of avoid the nonsense. Yeah, we had World War II. Yeah, there was internment camps with Japan in Northern California and other parts of the United States. But for the most part, those are very much kind of, not to downplay them, but they were very much blips in the greater scope of things in terms of, I don't know. I'm a little tipsy. I don't want to, the next thing you know, I'll end up on Nightline or something. He hates Asian people or whatever. But no, I just feel like people, that part of the world is very much more in alignment with their intuition, which is why they're able to stay above water in terms of all the nonsense that goes on in the world. Hopefully that isn't offensive. Hopefully that isn't offensive. Right now it's pink lemonade and Hennessy. And resonate with your friends and clients. It takes practice. And it's so funny because I get a lot of my practice when I do readings for my childhood friends, like my friend Dana, my friend Victoria. I got to do a reading for her on Monday because it's her birthday. And it's like, I don't mind doing readings for like people that I've known for years and years, because it's like, they've always been there for me when I've needed them. And especially going through school, so it's no problem. And it's always really rewarding when they tell me that my reading resonates with me. Like my friend Victoria, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I posted her on my Instagram story, and she was talking about how much I resonated that whole thing. But, it's definitely good practice. And I talk about it on my website. If you are interested in reading cards, how you start out is you can do donation readings or free readings first, so you can get acquainted with the cards. Then start doing donation readings over the phone. And you have a deck that uses flashcards that you read with, so you're able to remember the meanings, and it's able to gauge your intuition, and you're able to understand the story that's being told to you. And then once you're able to have it all memorized and have a good correspondence with the cards, you're able to read in person. So you're able to do birthday parties or read at Venice Beach or all that shit. So whenever you're ready, you're able to do all that. But if you're reading with bones, and it's so funny because people nowadays have such an interesting take on what bones are. I have a mosquito bite. What bones are, because bones can be figures. They could be, there's people who consider reading with dice and the baby from a king's cake reading with bones. There's people who consider all that reading with bones. I just bought the tarot coloring book and it's so helpful. Yeah, it is helpful. That's my favorite one. I always recommend that to people when they're... He was at the Super Bowl. I always recommend people that when they're learning to read tarot, and a lot of people, especially a lot of spiritualists with a lot of followers, they have an issue with people who are just starting out. I won't name any names, but some of them are your favorites. But they have a lot of issue with people who are just starting out, who are learning to read tarot and turning it into a business. Honestly, if this is something that you are meant to do, especially long term, then you will stick with it. If you're not meant to do it, then you won't stick with it. It's like Kabbalah. It's like Kabbalah in the early 2000s when Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton were all wearing the red string. But Madonna and Demi Moore were like the main ones championing Kabbalah. It's like they're still doing it. Demi Moore, Madonna, they're still practicing Kabbalah. Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, they're not still doing it. So it's like if you're really meant to be serious about the practice of tarot or any other form of divination, then you will stick with it without problem. And it shouldn't make us old heads in these practices insecure, because whoever's meant to stick with it will stick with it. We shouldn't be insecure about who is the hot new tarot reader, who's the hot new tea leaf, who's the hot new bone reader. It shouldn't be like that, because it's not like there was only 5 of them throughout history at a time. So like, why are you acting funny? But it's I don't know. Y'all be following them gals, and that's fine. It shouldn't, because all the oldies were beginners at some point too. Absolutely, we were all beginners. Hell, I just told you how I did it, how I started out. I had flashcards, and I was reading over the phone for donations. Yet not everyone is going to be good at reading tarot also. So it's like, just because everyone does it doesn't mean they're all good at it. What do I think is going to happen when 2021 starts? Where we're going to have Mars in Taurus, square Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. And what that tells us is more so kind of what we like, what we're used to, what we feel is dependable. It's very much challenged by newer, fresher things in regards to our belief systems, in regards to more so kind of our structures. Saturn is like the CEO that walks the sales floor and is like, the kind of like the cement and the not the wiring, more so kind of the cement and the wood of the building. And then Jupiter is more so kind of the blueprint, and with it all in Aquarius, it's all about the wiring of the building. And with the square Taurus, it's kind of like where we're building this building, so to speak, where we're building this new factory isn't in alignment with, it being close to a river that can potentially pollute the river. It can potentially pollute the air. It's kind of like we have all this new stuff. We want to build a new oil refinery, but it's next to all this Indian burial ground that very much kind of feeds all these Native American reservations. It's very much kind of incompatible. However, we have to find a way to make it compatible through tests and challenges. So beginning of 2021 is definitely all about that. It's all about kind of non-compatible energies, that very much kind of we hold near and dear, but we have to find a way to make it work. And then the worst part, I want to say the hardest part, is the end of 2021. Middle of 2021 is very much kind of chill from what I've looked at, what I've seen other astrologers talk about. Middle of 2021 is rather chill. But then we have Venus retrograde in Capricorn, and it'll be conjuncting or co-present with Pluto in Capricorn. And what that tells us is very much kind of ill-fated love affairs, kind of like Wuthering Heights, if you ever read the book, or kind of like, it's very much kind of like the show Scandal. It's kind of like how Olivia Pope and Fritz were very much kind of, they're both powerful people, and they both have powerful roles, and they both know their roles, but they very much kind of have that unrequited love that's very much self-serving and controversial and fucked up at the same time. So with that Venus retrograde situation in Capricorn, and with the Pluto situation, you got all that shit going on at the end of 2021. So you definitely see a lot of, I can reckon you can see a lot of relationships that have been together a long, long time crumbling. A lot of situations in regards to kind of business relationships definitely falling apart. More so kind of, I don't know, it's more so kind of, with a personal situation, definitely affiliated with money, but more so kind of, summer 2021 is pretty chill in comparison to this year, that's for damn sure. And it's more so kind of the beginning of 2021 and the end of 2021. And then 2022 is definitely, smooth sailing for the most part. We do have Pluto's return in 2022, 2023 for America. Us Americans, we do have the Pluto return. So it's like, if hell hasn't broken loose already, it will definitely, at that particular point. Drinking my turmeric tea. Yeah, I should have had my turmeric. I'll have it tomorrow. I always drink my turmeric tea most days of the week. Wishing others to succeed doesn't remove blessings from you. Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that. Those gatekeeping elders are whack. Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, them gals, they pride themselves on looking down on newer tarot readers. But it's kind of like, okay, all it took was you just being strategic and so kind of finding your foot in the door. Like a lot of them girls, they'll go to BeautyCon. They'll go to BeautyCon, right? And they'll network. They'll get the business card of so-and-so at Vogue, so-and-so at Elle Magazine, so-and-so at W Magazine. And then they'll constantly send their products. They'll constantly send their products to the beauty editor. They'll constantly send their products to the beauty editor, or they'll constantly send their products to editor at large, whoever. And, occasionally they'll get lucky. They'll use a moon that's associated with their North Node. And next thing you know, they'll be in the magazine. And then they'll use that as a means to look down on all the rest of you who are newer to reading tarot, who are newer to selling oils and herb baths or whoever. And it's like, okay, that doesn't mean that you're better at magic. That doesn't mean you're better at spirituality. That just means you're better at strategy. That just means that you're better at, chicken head strategy. That's like saying, okay, going to NBA All-Star Weekend. Not to sound sexist, but it's kind of like, better at marketing. Yeah, absolutely. That just means that you knew what to do, when to do it. But that doesn't mean that you're better at a certain thing. Not in a relationship yet, but I'm working on it. But no, it's the truth though. And I just feel bad because I feel like I'll watch these people look down on people or say these, really demeaning things about newer readers or newer spiritualists Or worse, they'll be like, oh, well, if you want to inbox me, my Cash App is whoopty whoopty, which is fine. If you're part of that group that's, all about being cashed up, about being asked questions, that's perfectly fine. But at the same time, you also have the option whether to answer it or not. No one's putting a gun to your head to answer the question. So for you to be on here bragging about how people need to Cash App you just to ask you a question, just to tell you hello, I'm not down with that. But, y'all love them. They're all verified and I'm not. But it's like I need to start somewhere. We all need to start, and we all started somewhere. Great Conjunction. So the Great Conjunction happens. Okay, that's a good question because people keep asking me about this December 21st, 2020. I don't know. I haven't seen people that really are in depth with astrology talking about 2021. I mean, December 21st, 2020. I only see them talking about December 17th. I don't know about the 2021 and the 5D stuff. Like, that's all new news to me. But I really don't feel like it's that big of a deal that people gotta... Yeah, I'm not asking for social security number. Yeah. And it really be something simple, like... And really, all they really gotta say is, bitch, go to BeautyCon, take your business cards, take your products, set up a table, give your business card out, get addresses, get phone numbers, antagonize these editors, antagonize these beauty editors, antagonize these YouTubers until they answer, and then that way you'll get your foot in the door. And that way you'll be able to look down at all these other witches on social media. Because that's what they do. That's what they do. Do I have conversation with flames and candle magic? Not necessarily, no. I mean, I've gotten better at reading certain flames, but it's like, if it's a small flame, like let's say, for example, look at this one. Like this is the new moon candle that I got from the Hood Conjurer. It's a small candle, but that's just more so kind of, it definitely did what I asked it to do, that's for sure. Mission accomplished, even though I've kind of kept it lit and then I've extinguished it because, everything in here is wood. So it's like I'm very, I'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking about everything being on fire. So I'll extinguish the candle. But with that being said, it's like it's a small flame because it's still kind of doing what it does. However, what I asked it to do, it definitely completed. Mission accomplished. If my North Node is in Sag, working with moons and fireplaces would be more effective. So yeah, if your North Node is in Sagittarius, that means that you would work with new moon in Leo and full moon in Leo, new moon in Aries, full moon in Aries, new moon in Sagittarius, full moon in Sagittarius, new moon in Aquarius, full moon in Sagittarius, new moon in Gemini, new moon in Libra, full moon in Gemini, full moon in Libra, and those 6. So trines and sextiles would be the ones that you would notice the most of a difference. Other astrologers, the ones that are very much hardcore, mostly the white male astrologers, would have something to say about that. Especially now that they're all a lot of them are all in this Vedic kick. And, they all got the flavor all of a sudden. You should see what they be saying on Twitter. I really wish you guys could catch all the shade that's been happening lately, but whatever. You've helped my journey so much. God bless you, Pink77. God bless you. Yes, I am really booked till December. Even though you see me on live, I still got stuff to do. I can only handle so many readings a day. That's why I have them booked all the way out. But don't get it twisted. I'm definitely doing a reading. At least 2 readings a day for the next 90 days, that's for sure. Them gals and white men. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The gals that be in the magazines, and the white men, except for Chris Brennan, he don't really be with the mess. But some of the other, greener astrologers are more so kind of the other white male astrologers. But, the ones that I'm talking about know who I'm talking about. They know who I'm talking about. Thank you, Travis. Are we allowed to DM you if I have before? Yeah, sure, if you want. And can. So, okay, so since you brought up, since you named them, so we'll get on that. Okay, so last week I had tweeted about how, our ancestors got us, whoop-de-whoop. So our ancestors got us, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And, based off of elections, based off of certain people being in office, people of color have always had to deal with, people of color and women have always had to deal with our livelihoods, our lifestyles always being at risk on a whim. Always being at risk based off of some little small shit. So he goes on he goes on his YouTube, and he posted a video last week, and he's all like, oh yeah, past 200 years, gnarly, bro, past 200 years has been great, whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. All these spiritualists on Twitter are all saying, whoop-de-whoop-de-woo, that they're all spiritual bypassing, and you really gotta get, in tune with how bad shit is, you really gotta get shit, like, he's just saying all this shit, right? And so, like, I really had to leave him a comment because it got me so mad, because, okay, like, first of all, like, dude, like, I know who you're talking about. I know what you're referring to, because, only one person on Twitter was really saying the type of shit that I was saying last week. So, and I know he follows me, and I know the other bald guy that will remain nameless follows me. But anyway, so I leave him a comment, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's easy for you to say that, shit has been great in America the past 200 years as a white man. But women of color, black women specifically, Latin women, black men, etc., LGBTQ community, our situation, we've always had to depend on our ancestors. We've always had to depend on hope and faith that things would change. For example, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he's always looked at as his hero for the Democratic Party during the 1920s, 30s, 40s, whatever the case may be. But there was also that whole redlining situation that made ghetto communities, and white communities that allowed or real estate in white communities to be generational wealth and stuff like that. Or more so kind of, during the 1960s and 70s, how, women of color, specifically black women, couldn't accept government aid if they had a man in the house. So it more so kind of broke down the system of, the dynamic of the black family and having a man in the house. And it's kind of like, this whole situation. So for, that whole thing for him to act like it's always been easy. But the fact that there's been changes in those practices, FDR and the redlining, that whole situation, there's policies in place now that make it illegal for people who rent or sell properties to discriminate based off of race, gender, orientation, religion, whatever the case may be. But if you were in the 1930s, you didn't always have that luxury. All you had was hope. So the whole purpose of me saying what I said in regards to kind of, everything comes out in the wash, in regards to my tweet, in regards to my Instagram post, everything always comes out in the wash. All we have is hope. People of otherness, people of different backgrounds, racial backgrounds. Everything always comes up. That isn't spiritual bypassing, that's a fact. You know, black people weren't always slaves. Black people weren't always, it wasn't always illegal for black people to know how to read. And then hope and prayer and assisting on the ancestors was allowed for us to be able to have historically black colleges, allowed for us to have, you know, non-discriminatory policies that allowed us to work, affirmative action, for example. So for him to get on his YouTube and go on that rant, and I left a comment and he liked it, but the thing about it is like, that's really who I'm talking about. And, you know, we're cool now. I don't have a problem with white like him now. But it's just that braggadocious and that nobody asked you in this of these white male spiritualists on Twitter that feel like they feel like they can just stick their nose in wherever it is they feel that they can stick their nose is my issue. And that's why I said what I said. Marginalized groups, absolutely. But yeah, you know, all we have is people of color, people of otherness, women of color specifically. You know, knowing that everything comes down in the wash, knowing that things eventually change. Just because Ruth Bader Ginsburg, honestly, you guys, if I was running on social media crying and screaming about every time something bad happened in this country, then, you know, me talking about me worshiping the ancestors really has no merit. It really has no value. Really has no purpose. Like, I'm just, you know, a toy soldier at this point. If I'm, every time something bad happens, I'm up here acting scared. Instead of depending on the ancestors, depending on my guides, depending on my spiritual faith, depending on my spiritual practice. And that's more so kind of the point that they were making. On top of the other dude, I can't remember his name, but he was like, who do you think your ancestors are? He said something along the lines of that, but it was some bullshit. I didn't even address it. But more so, you know, if I was on here acting scared, then everything that I tell you about what it is that I do would be completely irrelevant and nonsensical. It would be on some bullshit. It would be on some bullshit if I'm up here acting scared every time something bad goes down. So that's why, you know, based off of history, based off of what I know, based off of what I've seen, you know, if it wasn't for the faith that we have, if it wasn't for things eventually turning around in the favor in which it should be on the right side of history, then I couldn't say what it is that I'm saying. You know, and, you know, Democratic Party isn't completely scot-free, but in comparison, in more so kind of modern history, 21st century and 20th century, they're more in alignment with the needs of people of otherness and marginalized communities as opposed to the other party. Yeah, you know, it'd be great if we could have more than a two-party system. You know, it'd be wonderful, but at the same time, it's like even the third options we have, like libertarianism, is on some fuck shit. It's mostly kind of like frat boys that are libertarians from Utah. Like, what good is that going to do us? So, you know, I'm a Democrat. My mother's a Democrat. I've registered as Democrat in Louisiana. Vote Adrian Perkins. All my fellow North Louisianians, Central Louisianians, vote, or all Louisianians, vote Adrian Perkins for Louisiana Senate. Vote Democrat, vote blue in the state of Louisiana. Adrian Perkins. I actually went to high school with him at Captain Shreve High School back in the day. So vote for him, November 3rd. But yeah, no, that was my qualm with. But me and White Light Cam are good now. I don't have a problem with him. It doesn't seem like he has a problem with me. You know, all the other smug white spiritualists, I've muted or unfollowed, so it's really no big deal. But that whole situation is squashed. But yeah, like, that he came at me foul because I know what he was referring to. I know what tweet he was referring to, and I had to correct it, and I had to address it. And I wasn't scared. I left him a comment on his YouTube, and I even posted it on Twitter. Like, what you gonna do? What you gonna say? That's 2 days before my birthday. Finally found a flattering angle, but I don't know how long I can keep my arm held up like this. But yeah, like the nerve of some, and it's just like, you know, the fact that he and another white male spiritual, or really white passing, because the other dude is Puerto Rican, but he looks like a Jewish man, went on a rant about who do you think your ancestors are, and you think they're just some, you know, some fairy godmothers or whoever. Yeah. What else they gonna do? What else they got going on? Yeah. What else they doing? And yet he really tweeted that bullshit. That fuck shit. But anyway. Aqua Johnson. I can't even think of his name. But he practices Santeria or whatever, but like, I don't know. He looks Jewish. I mean, he occasionally likes my posts, likes my tweets, but it's very much in a condescending way, or very much kind of in a Mean Girls way. But anyway, what else you guys want to talk about this evening? Hey, if you guys brought it up, it come up, it come out. Let me look through these comments and see what you guys... Yeah, no, and it's so funny. Okay, so M.X wrote, I find some of them to be so condescending to people just asking for advice or info. Yeah, no, it's definitely a problem, and it actually used to be worse. And they really were very much kind of... What's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of like not with it in terms of how asinine and fuck shit they were on. Like, okay, so for example, they used to be like, we're not gatekeepers, we're not gatekeeping astrology, we're not doing this, we're not doing that whole time. So it's like, let's say for example, good example, when that one girl tweeted, oh, well, you know, I'm not getting an astrology reading from someone who hasn't gone through their Saturn return or whatever, even though that was asinine in its own way. The fact that they made snide jokes about it amongst themselves for weeks, not even days, weeks at a time, is gatekeeping. And it's gatekeeping because it very much creates a narrative that our side is right because we've had all these years of study, which is fine, but it very much kind of creates this narrative that, like, you know, we're on one side and people that we don't agree with are on another side. Whereas there's so many multifaceted parts of astrology that don't necessarily always agree with each other, but because some are verified, some have, you know, 10, 20, 30,000 followers, and it's because they're able to spin such a narrative and make so-and-so look bad and you know, create jokes amongst each other. It creates this narrative that, you know, they're right and whoever said XYZ is wrong, and whoever said XYZ is wrong is completely blacklisted from the people who are right and never to trust whoever said XYZ is wrong. So for example, Milk Astrology, quote unquote, has allegedly been known to copy and paste stuff from, I forget the name of that website, one of them, Astrology King or one of them websites or whatever, and then retweet it, which is, you know, controversial, but at the same time it's kind of like, okay, it's not so much that they claim that they were teaching classes on astrology, but it's because there is this, you know, this hullabaloo and this whole controversy of it. It's just, you know, the powers that be in the astro Twitter community are very much kind of against that and very much kind of, you know, ready to hang so-and-so up on their cross. It's a whole lot. It's just, you know, astrology, you definitely have to have the thick skin to deal with spiritual Twitter. That's for damn sure. You definitely have a thick skin. How Do I Learn Playing Cards? A really good book. Ouch. A really good book about learning playing cards is, let me show you. Is this book. Hold on. Even though it's an oldie, but it's definitely a goodie. It's called Fortune Telling for Fun and Popularity. And it's from 1942. But you can find it on eBay every now and then. But it tells you, let's see, about, it tells you about the cards and the card meanings. But there's plenty of other there's plenty of other books. But this is a really good book, actually. But this is a really old book. Even though it's unfair that I tell you about it, being that it's so rare. But honestly, if you learn the Rider-Waite, then you can definitely make or find inspiration in the regular decks or the playing card decks from the Rider-Waite, because they're very similar. It's not that different. People make it seem like it's super different. It's not that different. Show the name again, please. So yeah, this book is called Fortune Telling for Fun and Popularity by Paul Showers. This one I bought off eBay. But yeah, Fortune Telling for Fun and Popularity by Paul Showers. It's an old school book. Definitely talks, and it isn't just, this book isn't even just about the cards. It talks about tea leaf reading, talks about tarot, talks about astrology, all that. Interestingly enough, if you buy a deck like the Neo Tarot, which is this feminine ass deck, this is like for like, I don't know, I don't want to offend anybody, but this deck is just definitely interesting. But the best part about this deck is that it tells you the astrological correspondence of the cards. So for example, like the Lover's card is Gemini, even though, the playing card deck doesn't have the major arcana, it's still, let's see. So for example, so you have the Four of Cups, and the Four of Cups is similar to Moon in Cancer, which is detachment, introspection, contemplation, dissatisfaction, affirmation. When I take time to listen to my higher self, I can see the gifts in front of me. And that's very indicative of the Four of Cups. But you would even find that in the Four of Cups in the Rider-Waite deck. You would find the same definition. So yeah, this is the Neo Tarot. I don't particularly like it. I only like it because it tells you the astrological correspondence, but it's very much kind of like a feminine, queer deck. And let me show you. Let me tell you why. It reminds me of, you remember that 90s brand Esprit or like K-Swiss? It's very much kind of like, it's a cool design, but I would never use it. Like, I like it, but it's very much kind of like all-encompassing, LGBTQI, all that shit situation. My favorite deck is the Ancient Italian Tarot. I'll pull that one out one more time. I talked about this on a couple of lives back. All in my underwear, talking to you guys drunk about tarot cards. I'm talking shit about the other readers, but who cares? Let's see. My favorite deck is the Ancient Italian Tarot, which I have in here, which is unopened. This is my favorite deck, and I sell it on the Amazon storefront. Do I have it open anywhere? I don't know. I'll just buy another one. I'll just open this one. Because they're like $20. They're not even super expensive. But yeah, Ancient Italian Tarot. Here, I'll put it. Ancient Italian Tarot. Like Frankie, Keisha Cole's mom. Italian. Do the Frankie leg. Do the Frankie leg. But anyway, so Ancient Italian Tarot. The reason why I like it is because it looks very Dolce and Gabbana. Looks very, imported from Italy. Hold on. And I'm holding things with one hand. And I'll open it with my two. Opening things with our teeth, talking shit about the other readers, class act. This is the class act. Over here on Witch Dr. Alex Instagram. Hold on. So yeah, I like this one, and it may be controversial that I like this one because it's European or whatever, but I like this one just because of how fancy and how designer it looks, if you can tell. Because it looks like these are cards you would pull out on a picnic with a mob boss or something from the 1940s in Italy. And some of the other readers, they would tell you a deck that very much is, righteous and super power to the people, all that shit. I'm sorry, just in terms of design, I'm a sellout. I like this European look. Unfortunately, I'm Carlton. I like this European ass look just because these look fly as hell. They look like Dolce & Gabbana. They look like Gucci. In comparison, but you know what? I also in comparison to, I also like Native American tarot as well. But a lot of people have issues with Native American tarot, and I'll tell you why. Because even though it tells you in the book that it honors or appreciates the multiple different backgrounds of the different tribes, there's people on Twitter they'll be like, it appropriates because it mixes, and, certain tribes didn't mix, or whatever the case may be. Everyone on Twitter is, an armchair revolutionary. But I like this deck as well because of the design. If you can see, hold on. And it also comes with, different definitions of certain cards. Median of blades. Or it comes with medicine woman, vessels. That whole thing. It comes with more so kind of an authentic Native American look. I'd say the best African American, and it's unfortunate because they didn't make a full deck, but I would say the best, melanated deck, if I can find it in here. Give me 1 second. But I always tell the Black Power Tarot is the best. Better than the Tarot Nefertari. This one everyone loves just because it's it looks authentically Egyptian. It looks like hieroglyphs. Tatiana Tarot has it. Kadaris has it. I don't know what he calls himself today because he always changes his name, whether it's the Wolf Hero or whatever, but something like that. Anyway, he has this deck as well. But the hold on. I mean, there's the African American tarot. But, like, okay, so let me tell you my beef with the African American tarot. And we'll get to that. Let me clean this up first. And I'll tell you why I don't prefer the African American tarot. I also have the Hoodoo tarot, which is, specifically Black, African American, HBCU. But, I'll tell you why I don't like that one either. And what could have been better. And why I like the Ancient Italian better. And, the reason why I like certain decks better is because it's kind of like, let's say, for example, that, this, tarot reading wasn't pop culture and it wasn't, mainstream or whatever the case may be. And let's say that, you just went somewhere and you knew someone who knew someone and they pulled, some cards that look like this out. And it's be like, oh, okay, well, then they must really know their shit. As opposed to, a deck that has, for example, and, this is no offense to the people that made this deck. It's still a beautiful deck. But, it could, in my opinion, based off of the fact that I'm a collector of decks, it could use some work. If it didn't have this stuff at the bottom. Because it's kind of like, what do you need to translate? Like, what do you need to... Like, if it was more so nondescript, then it'd be like, oh, okay, then they're using divination. But because it's so kind of like Fisher-Price, or very much kind of needs a translator, it's very much kind of, it can almost kind of show you that, you had to study this one in order to understand it. Have you tried interviewing your decks before working with them? Yeah, no, I don't use all these decks. I collect them, but I don't use all of them. Do you like African New Orleans tarot? I don't think I've seen that one. So and I talked about the Hoodoo tarot before, definitely get this deck. I sell this deck in the Amazon storefront. Definitely cop this one. I give this deck as a gift to people, that I'm close to. It's a beautiful deck, especially people of color that I'm close to. And it definitely is, the truth in terms of divination, but in terms of design, it's not my favorite. And some people will call it controversial that I'm partial to the Ancient Italian tarot deck. It is what it is. If I'm Sammy Davis Jr. and if I'm a sellout, if I'm Quincy Jones, that's how it is. That's just how it has to be. But I like the design scheme of the Ancient Italian tarot in comparison to the other decks. Melanin tarot, I like it. You were an Italian in a past life. Quite possibly. I wouldn't doubt it. Like Keisha Cole's daddy. An Italian. So let's pull out the Hoodoo tarot and we'll talk about that one. Let's see if we can find that one. I don't know if I can find that tonight. I don't know if I feel like tearing up this room. I don't know. But see, my issue with the the Hoodoo tarot is like, I feel like they dropped the ball on some of the illustrations. Like some of them, it's just kind of like, oh, there it is. Hold on. No, it isn't. What is in here? Oh. Yeah, I don't know where it is, so I don't know where I'll put it. But anyway, I just feel like they dropped the ball on some of the illustrations with the Hoodoo tarot. It could have been better, could have been worse. I like using it for myself more, yeah. But yeah, so like I said, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you come across a reader, I feel like someone that pulls like these kind of shits out that look like they've been through some things, like look like they have some history, just because the illustrations are very much kind of historic. They just very much tell a story, and they aren't like super translated. Look at this Ace of Pentacles. Like this looks like if I was in 1799 getting a tarot reading, it will look legit. It looks historical, as opposed to these other decks that very much kind of look hella 80s or whatever. And that's not to take away from the hard work of these people who put these decks together. That's just my critique as someone who collects decks. Doesn't mean that I'm right. Doesn't mean that, I'm dissing or that I'm self-hating black or anything like that. It just means that based off of someone that collects decks that has a certain look, that's what I look for. Anyone can learn tarot, but a person with a gift can give you multiple meanings. Absolutely. It does look historical. Yeah, that's exactly my point. The other ones don't look historical. The other ones look like, anyone could have made them. And, it's interesting. I actually have... Well, no. When the time is right, I'll share that news. But I'm, lightweight working on a deck that I think a lot of you will be very excited about. But I can't share too much about it just because it's in the infant phases. But I feel like many, many, many of you, especially because you all know that I'm a tarot collector and a connoisseur, you'll know that I'm eventually coming out with my own deck, but that's all I'm saying. But just know, I'm gonna give you the goods when I do come out with that deck. I'm definitely gonna give you the goods. It'll definitely be affordable. It'll definitely give you all the meetings you need and all that. So no readings until after 2020, Alex. Based off of the looks of it, I'm completely booked up. Unless people cancel, it's funny because I had a cancellation for November 10th, and then someone booked it just this morning. So people cancel all the time. People cancel bookings all the time. So it's like if you just check back the website, the thing about me is like I said at the beginning of this video, this Instagram live, I like doing readings, but I don't love doing readings. So I'm not going to be, sitting up in the house, waiting by the phone, doing reading after reading after reading all day. That will drive me crazy. And, it's not like I'm, tooting my own horn and, I'm the best reader, this, that, and the third. Considering that I'm affordable in comparison to many other readers that charge you $100 for half an hour and tell you what they're going to tell you. You can't even ask questions. I'm $44 an hour, unlimited questions. I'll tell you about astrological transits and the cards. I feel like I'm really, really fair and really, really lenient in comparison to all these other people that, have all these titles and tell you what they're going to tell you and charge you much, much more. Are you ever going to do natal charts? Is there something you can recommend? Definitely check out Shantae Out Loud. Hold on. Shantae Out Loud for natal charts, as well as on Twitter, Chad the Maverick on Twitter. Who else is doing natal charts? Marin Altman. I think it's Marin Altman. No, it's Marin Altman. Check them out. They're doing astrology readings, natal chart readings for more in-depth. I feel like I won't start doing natal chart readings until I take and have enough time to kind of sit down and take a real class, because I feel like I'm just so all over the place with how I read anyway, and especially considering I only like to talk to people for an hour. There's so much kind of going on with people's charts that you can only break down in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, etc. The Peace Dealer, yeah, he's cool too. Wise Royalty does amazing natal charts. Yeah, absolutely. God bless you, Bruja Goddess. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of great natal chart readers. I was just talking to I told Jay Versace about getting Shantae Out Loud to do his personal readings. He asked me if I knew someone that would be his personal reader. And I was like, really, you asking me after all these, all these people that, but, it was an honor for him to even ask me for that. But yeah, I told him to either talk to Chad the Maverick or Shantae Out Loud. So he clearly picked one of them. I appreciate when, a lot of, my more well-known people that I associate with or talk to, trust my judgment in regards to getting readings. In that, it's always super appreciated and an honor, especially when you watch their life blossom and bloom. I told, what's her name? When I was in the hospital and I was on the phone with Azalea earlier, and I'm always talking about this. But no, when I was in the hospital, when I was at Culver City Hospital and I was on the phone with Azalea, I was telling her that, because she has Aquarius in her 10th house, it's like if she does certain shit with her career and her music, she can definitely turn the narrative around about kind of her whole public perception and more so kind of her artistry. So time will only tell in regards to what it is that she does with that situation. And oh my God, I was on so much morphine when I was talking to her. It felt like it was a fantasy at the time because she called me from an unknown number and we was just talking, and she was telling me about this Russian boy that she was talking to and all this crazy stuff, and I don't know, it was all this crazy, this madness. It was funny. But anyway, based off of astrology, especially with the major conjunction, with the great conjunction that's happening on the 17th, people who have Aquarius placements, if you do what you're supposed to do, you can definitely make it do what it do is. Because, with Saturn and Jupiter, I always tell people, anyone who's gotten a reading from me, I always tell people, think about the Queen of England. She's the longest reigning monarch in history, and she was born with Saturn and Jupiter conjunct on her ascendant. So it's like it adds to longevity. So whatever seeds that you plant have longevity to them. So if you want to open a restaurant, start a magazine, open a clothing line, whatever it is you want to do, don't expect it to take off overnight, but definitely expect it to have longevity, whatever it is. Oh, hey, Kyretta, how are you? Good, you got the 10-minute Feng Shui book. That's good. Yeah, I like that book as well. Yeah, I can't find that Hoodoo Tarot. What else is going on? Start a relationship. Yeah, if you have Aquarius, if you're a Leo rising, and if you want to start a relationship within the next year, you definitely have liberty to, and it definitely has potential to have long-term gains and long-term results with it. Because you have Aquarius in your 7th house. I'm drinking pink lemonade and Hennessy. The Kurdish Oracle is texting me. Let's see. My energy has been super high. I don't know. I can just tell. I'm drinking. Shout out to the Kurdish Oracle. Go follow the Kurdish Oracle. And that's another thing. There's so much drama on Twitter. Shout out to him. He's a loyal friend. He's a good friend. And that's why when, a lot of these other spiritualists, even black spiritualists that are like, oh, you're white, you're Middle Eastern, you're this, you're that. I may not always agree with the moves of the people that I affiliate with, but I'm still a loyal friend regardless. Even though Kurdish Oracle isn't black, he definitely is knowledgeable. He definitely is successful. He definitely is spiritually gifted. There's no denying that. And he definitely is a loyal ass friend. In comparison to some of these naturalists, some of these other, people who are so righteous, who I don't talk to, who I don't fuck with. It's like, what do I look like going over to your side instead of the people that actually fuck with me in the first place? So shout out to Kurdish Oracle. I do Henny and ginger ale. It's yummy. Oh, I'm gonna have to try that. Try Hennessy and peach lemonade. It's really good. I couldn't find peach lemonade today. But yeah, definitely check out Merritt Altman, Chad the Maverick, and Shantae Out Loud for your natal chart readings, as well as some of the other people that people in the comments talked about. I can't think of her name. Wise Royalty. She's dope. Check her out. It's only 35 people watching, which is fine. I don't need 70 people watching. As much shit as I talk. Hopefully Illinois has peach lemonade. So what do you guys want to talk about? What's on you guys' mind tonight? Look at my face getting shape. And see, 2 months ago, this was all a circle. Couldn't even see my neck. I'm happy all 38 of you are here too. And this will be on the YouTube channel. So I always post my lives on the YouTube channel as evidence. Before I take it back, I'm gonna add more to it. So anytime any of these other spiritualists got a problem, it's been quite a year, you guys. I began the year with that whole hood healer situation and all that drama, and I was able to kind of walk away from that situation unscathed. And it is what it is with that situation. God and the ancestors took care of that, and I moved against all the anxiety, all the stress that I was having in regards to leaving Los Angeles. I'm in a much better place. I'm ready to move to Dallas. What's your YouTube channel? It's Witch Dr. Alex. Hold on. Post it. Witch Dr. Alex Official on YouTube. How often do you recommend we put offerings on our altar aside from daily water? Sunday is my refresh day. Sunday is the day I take my hardcore spiritual baths. I take regular spiritual baths throughout the week, but it's mostly kind of like the seven spiritual plants, which is like bay leaf, basil, rue. If you don't have rue, then eucalyptus, rosemary, like kitchen herbs. When you bathe daily with kitchen herbs throughout the week, that's fine. But on Sundays, or at least one day out the week, even if it's Saturday or even if it's Friday, whatever day you pick out the week, if there's a certain one day out the week that you really do kind of a major overhaul, which you put fresh offerings, do like a hardcore spiritual bath with, the more so kind of serious herbs like Quita Maldición or Rompe Saragüey, all that stuff, then one day a week is perfectly fine. Cascarilla, which is the eggshell powder. You do an egg cleanse when you rub the egg all over your Olympia. You do that one day a week. My astrocartography says about Dallas, it's the same thing that it says about Northwest Louisiana, where it has my north node in my north node and south, my north node on my 10th house, which is house of career and house of public image, which it can make, learning about the north node, it can make it exhausting, but it ultimately is very much fated event. It very much pushes it towards a direction that kind of speeds up the process and very much makes things happen. But with the south node, puts it in the 4th house of ancestry, living situation, so it can make me miss family, can make me miss kind of times of the past with that south node in the 4th house. I do know how to read egg yolks. Yeah, this will be posted to my YouTube. Does North Node and Leo equal fame? Not necessarily. It can, but it more so can kind of There's more to Leo than attention or fame. It can lead to creativity. It can lead to infamy. It can lead to loud, extra loud attention. So for that example, it's kind of like saying you may be notorious, or very much a faded event is very much notorious or loud. That's meant to happen for you in regards to your life. So let's say, for example, you have North Node in Leo, and there's you're having a perfection year that's co-present with your North Node, or your North Node is present in the house that your perfection year is happening and it's activated. So, and let's say that's this year coming up, but let's say that you're not famous, but more so let's say that you're super into church, and let's say that you have a solo, and the solo falls in alignment with the North Node conjunction, or a trine, or a sextile, or whatever. And so it all lines up to where your Leo North Node is activated by that transit, and that is a part of your fate. That is a part of your soul purpose, so to speak. So it isn't so much that everybody that has North Node in Leo is meant to be famous. That would mean that everyone that's born 365 days, everyone that's born during that yearly transit of the North Node in Leo is meant to be famous. That's not always true. People who have North Node in Aries, Sagittarius, people who have North Node in Scorpio are famous. So really, fame is dependent on the moon and the sun to a degree, but more so kind of, from what I'm learning, the moon, because the moon is magnetic for attention, but the sun is soul purpose and more so kind of growth and vitality, as well as the 10th house. 10th house as well as, the 10th house. The symbol that looks like a horseshoe. I saw your post on Marie Laveau B-Day being September 15th. I don't believe I said that it was the 15th. I always said that it was the 10th. I may not have posted the statue till the 15th, but her birthday was actually the 10th. I may not have posted her statue because, she wasn't feeling being shown until the sun went into Libra. Sun in the 10th house. Best day for cleansing, in my opinion, Sundays. That's when I always do it. Okay, people are booking readings, let's say Wednesday, January 20th, Monica McGee. So yeah, if you book a reading, just remember, all my readings are done on Pacific Coast time. So if you're in New York, 3 hours behind. If you're in Texas, 2 hours behind. If you're in Texas, 2 hours behind. But if you're in Arizona or California, it's the same time. So definitely, it's that same time. Definitely be adamant about what time you're scheduling, as well as payment, Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. I'm not a stickler about that, but please pay as soon as possible, or else, my ancestors will deal with you. I got a text message today. This girl, she texted me. I'll read you what she said. She was like, I didn't pay you from last October, but... Okay, here, I'll show you. You gave me a reading almost a year ago. I had to get off the phone, and we never finished it. But you still told me a lot. I never sent you payment. Booked another reading for November. Sent payment for both. So eventually that shit's gonna catch up. So just know that you need to pay. And I'm super affordable in comparison to everyone else. I'm super affordable. How should I feel about empty houses in my chart? Depends on what planets are aspecting those empty houses. Just because they're empty doesn't mean that you don't have to deal with them. That doesn't mean that they don't tell a story. Thank you so much for the love, Amon. Yeah, just because they're empty doesn't mean that they don't tell a story. They're still being aspected by other planets and other houses. For example, the 7th house is always in opposition to the 1st. The 9th house is always in trine to the 1st. The 5th house is always in trine to the 1st. So there's always aspects. The 4th house is always square to the 1st. There's always challenges in regards to our living situation. There's always challenges in regards to the whole human existence. There's always challenges in regards to family and tests that come along with ancestry and family. So that's definitely always a given. How long is the reading? The reading is 1 hour long. Can you book for more than 1 hour? I don't like to talk on the phone for longer than an hour. But if you find an opening for 2 hours straight, then yeah, take it. If you want to book for both of those, go for it. Do you read birth charts? And if so, I don't do the extensive, this house means this sign means this conjunction means this. I talk about upcoming transits for the year in conjunction with the tarot. So it's like if I'll tell you the tarot, how I do it is more so I pull 9 cards just to make sure that I'm connected with the right person, I'm connected with the right energy. You can always tell me if it doesn't resonate, or if it does. Typically it resonates, not even to toot my own horn, but I'll pull 9 cards. If it resonates, you tell me yeah, and then I talk about your upcoming transits for the year. For example, if you have, Aquarius in the 7th house, then we talk about all the changes and long-term transitions that are happening with the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction on December 17th, happening in your 7th house of partnership, relationship, business, partnership, contracts, as well as outright enemies, as well as the oppositions that happen in your 1st house of appearance, and how the world sees you, how you see the world and your body, and more so kind of the planetary positions that happen in those planetary houses. But I don't go into detail, especially, and I specifically don't do a written out report of what everything means. I have referrals over people who can help you with that, but I don't do all that. My readings are $44, which is dumb cheap in comparison to everyone else. But I feel like that's me being nice to people. I feel like that's me being affordable to people, especially considering that, Jupiter is in Capricorn. I've been knew that this was going to be a tough year for people financially. People need guidance. People need, someone to help them steer the wheel, as opposed to people just robbing them and then telling them what they're going to tell them. And this is not to knock, all the other readers that charge more. You can charge more if you want to. That's you. But I was instructed specifically to only charge $44 right now. When the new year hits, it can be a different story. I do plan to eventually raise my prices. Eventually. But at the time being, it still will stay at $44. Link is in bio. Link in my bio, yeah. $44 for 1 hour. Not even $1 a minute. Absolutely not even $1 a minute. NN on IASC. That sounds like your North Node is on your ascendant, which means that a lot of your purpose There's also kind of this addictive tendency to very much be obsessed, or more not so much obsessed, more so kind of driven by your personal purpose. It's kind of like feeling like super obsessed with like, I have to be someone, I have to do something, I have to make this happen. It's kind of like this draining existence that you may have in regards to fulfilling that purpose with that North Node on the ascendant. However, it depends on what sign it's in. Do I do any other type of readings? No. I do have rituals before my readings and after my readings, but I keep that to myself. North Node in the first house. Yeah, like I was saying, very much kind of more of a faded situation to where it may be exhausting to kind of feel like you have to self-fulfill a prophecy of some kind. All right, well, I'm getting a little sleepy. I'm getting a little tired. I need to pour another drink. But it's been fun. This will be on the YouTube channel, Witch Doctor Alex Official. It's been a pleasure speaking with you all, and I wish you all a good night. Watch this on YouTube if you haven't seen it. Talk to you later.